For most of my career, I was obsessed with customer acquisition and marketing, but completely neglected the operational side of things. And then once I did it for my own business and I saw how much money it saved me or made me, and how much more peace of mind that it gave me, I spent the next couple of years putting together a step by step, systematic framework that you can use in your business to double both the quantity and the quality of the output that you get from yourself and your team, just overall in your company. So, in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what that is and how to implement it in your business. So, let's get into it. Now, before we do that, my name is Jeremy Reeves. I am the CEO of ScaleAdvisors.com and the author of the number one best-selling book, The Scalable Profit Model. And basically, I put all this together after running this for myself, after generating somewhere in the range of about $200 million for myself and clients, running multiple seven-figure business myself, selling that business, and working with clients in all sorts of different industries on both the marketing side, the finance side, and the operational side. All right, so let's dig into it. Right, this is what I call this is the fourth lever that I have in my five lever framework for maximizing your profit and cash flow and minimizing your stress in D2C businesses. All right, so I call it operational efficiency. And the one thing it really measures two things, right? There's the financial side, which I usually use your overhead per customer, right? And then the non-financial, the soft side, would be the stress reduction side of things, right? So being able to actually sleep well at night and not working on weekends or nights, not stressing, not having your employees driving you crazy because they have questions all the time. That side of things. All right. So when it comes to all this, right? Those are really the biggest benefits of this lever are those two things, right? When you improve your operations, that lowers your overhead per customer. Essentially, what that means is for every order that you make in your business, there's a dollar amount attached to that that has to go to your overhead. All right. So if you're making, let's just say you're making $10,000 a month and you have 1,000 customers every month, or sorry, say you have $10,000 in operational expenses per month, and you have 1,000 customers per month. That would mean you have a $10 overhead per customer. All right. So you have to allocate a certain dollar amount to each customer to cover your overhead. All right. So this framework improves that. So then when you lower your overhead per customer, that means that either you get to keep that profit or you get to take that extra margin that you get and put it back into acquisition to generate more customer volume, which then in return, if you have your operational the operational side of things on your business set up properly, then getting more customers, if you don't increase your operational overhead, then you're going to continue to lower that number. All right, and it just continues to recycle. All right, so the way that I like to approach this, I like to call it a double double. All right, my goal whenever I'm working with the client is to double both the quality of output that them and their team do, and also the quantity of output. All right, so in general, right, and of course this is going by statistics. This does not mean it's necessarily for your business. I'm just going by statistically, right? What is it? And so statistically, teams have a roughly 3 hours of actual output per day, like 3 hours of actual productivity per day. All right. So our goal is to get that from 3 to 6. So that's the efficiency or the quantity side of things. On the quality side of things, the generally, and again, there's multiple ways of measuring this, but generally, the research shows that companies have about a 35%, essentially 35% of that productive time is going towards actual needle moving, high impact uh, activities. So our goal there, of course, is take it from about 35% to 70%. And when you combine both of those, of course, we double, right? You get roughly quadrupling of your overall throughput per employee. So that essentially means that if you have employees and you're paying them right now, our goal is to make each of your employees 4 times as valuable as they are right now. All right. If you're tracking revenue per employee, things like that, that's the number that we're going to be trying to increase here. All right. So Let's get into the system. So there are really four things, right? You get the right people in the right seats doing the right things efficiently. All right. So I'm going to walk you through all four of those. And if you want to go into detail on all these, by the way, this is all in my book, The Scalable Profit Model. There's a whole section dedicated to this. I'm just going to walk you through kind of the basics of everything. All right. So we're starting with the right people because people are obviously the foundation of your business. All right. You need employees. Now with AI, it's getting a little bit weird, right? It's getting to the point where you typically need less people, or you can go the other way and keep your people and make them more productive. That's the sort of thing I like to do because if I can take, I mean, it's really all just based on return on investment, right? If you're paying someone $100,000 a year and you fire them, well, yeah, you gained $100,000 a year, all right, but if you have someone that you're paying $100,000 a year and you make them more valuable so they can bring you in 300 or $400,000 a year, well, that's a much better investment, right? So that's the side of things I tend to go on. So, but either way, the basics of this is that you have to have the right people in place. Most of my clients, most of the times I've been hired, most of the stories that I've heard, most of the horror stories that I've heard comes from people that hire people because they like them. And if you're doing that, just first of all, know that it's very common. I've literally done it myself, right? Back when I used to hire poorly. I've been hired by people who liked me without like they asked me like three questions and then they're giving me six figures a year to work with them. Uh, and that is the wrong way to do it. All right. So when you have the wrong people in place, it kind of makes everything else irrelevant, right? Because employees it's what drives your business. It's what drives the throughput in your business that allows you to do more work, to get more out there, to create products, to create campaigns, to whatever it is, look for hidden margins, look for hidden profit centers, fix leaky margins. Everything that you need to do in your business to do all of the things that we talk about in these videos, you need people to do that. And again, I say people and employees. I'll kind of say like it could be people or AI. It's kind of we're in a weird spot right now in like mid 2026 with that, right? So basically that's the first thing. All right. So if you're not hiring people, if you don't have a process for hiring people properly using actual interviews with relevant questions, if you're not clear on what you're hiring them for, right? Those sorts of things, you have to get all those dialed in first before you do anything else. All right. You cannot just get on a call and hey, I like you, cool, you're hired. All right. And you can do that, but you're going to end up wasting a lot of money. All right. So that's the first thing. And again, there's multiple resources for hiring properly. I put together my own hiring process at my last company that I sold, Peak Biome, and it took a couple months to put that together, but it was a really, really, really good process that I now use. I give to clients, and they can just pop it right into their thing, right in their existing systems, and just use the system. It's fantastic. It highly reduces the amount of people that you get in that are wrong fits, which is so expensive, not just on a financial sense, but through your culture, for opportunity cost. Like it is so expensive to hire the wrong person. So you have to start there. All right. The next thing is getting those people in the right seats. All right. And the first two are kind of combined a little bit because when you're hiring someone, you should know exactly what seat they're going in. All right. This applies a little bit more to existing people in your business, making sure that the people you have now are in the right seats. All right. And the way that I like to go about this is I like to do, Gay Hendricks has a four zone of genius chart. All right. So there's incompetence, competence, excellence, and genius. All right. So the zone of incompetence is really where you want no one to be, right? You want the least amount of time in the zone of incompetence. And that pretty much means that you're bad at it and it's draining. All right. So you're looking at this in terms of how good you are at it and energy. Those are the two like kind of main things that we're looking at with these quadrants. So the zone of incompetence, bad at it and it drains their energy. The zone of competence is they're good slash decent at it, but it also drains their energy. All right. So they're half decent at it. They can do it if no one else can do it, but it doesn't add anything. It's kind of just there. It's one of those things that's just there. It doesn't really help anybody, right? It's just there. The next one is the zone of excellence. And that is when you're really good at it, you're very, very good at the skill, but it's also draining. So you can typically only do it for short spans of time. And it's also going to reduce your effectiveness in everything else that you do throughout the day. All right. So this is kind of a dangerous zone because it's one of those things that it's easy to fall into the trap and be like, well, I'm really good at it, even though I don't love to do it. Right. And you have to understand energy. All right. You have to understand that there's only a finite amount of energy, unless you have energy manipulation tactics. That's a whole other conversation. But just in a general day, there's really only so much energy to go around. There's only so much time to go around. And you want to make sure that you're spending it in your zone of genius. All right. And that is when you're world class at that thing and you love doing it. It energizes you. You can't wait to, when you're going to bed, you're thinking about it the next day. You can't wait to just get at it and dive in and do it, right? And you're amazing at it. So that's where we want to be. Um, when it comes to employees, when you have people in their zone of genius, what's amazing about this, when you hire the right people that don't need handholding and then you put them in your zone of genius, you get this amazing situation where they don't need handholding and they just get things done and they do them properly without your guidance. All right. And they just tell you when it's done rather than this whole back and forth and, oh, is this okay? Is this okay? What about this? What about this? Here's a question. Here's four more questions. Oh, well, what if I did it this way? Oh, we ran into a fire. Fix it for me. That whole thing that so many entrepreneurs go through, right? That is not how a properly functioning team should work. A properly functioning team should get a clear result, or not result, a clear direction from the leader, whether that's you, their boss, whoever that is. And then they should go at it. If they have a problem, they should be bringing it to you in a specific format, something I call it's the 131 format, with like they bring you one problem, three suggested solutions, and one recommended solution. That by alone, or by itself, by the way, will completely change your life if you implement it in your business. I'll do a separate video on that, right? And that's where you want to get everyone, right? So if you have new employees, make sure that you're hiring the right people, doing the right interview process, and doing all that stuff. I know it's a pain in the ass. Trust me, I've done it. I do not like hiring. It is not something that I enjoy doing, right? But it is so, so, so important because team members literally drive everything in your business, right? So, and then you put them in the right seats, and that's where they're going to produce better work with less of your input. All right. So they're like their own kind of like AI bots. They just go and you ask for something to be done, or maybe they just know what's to be done. They don't even have to ask, which is the ideal scenario. And you just get updates. Hey, this is done. Cool. Let me give final review. Boom, done, and go. Right? That's how you want things to flow in your business. You don't want this back and forth 100 times on 100 different things, because then it pulls you out of your zone of genius, or it pulls their boss out of their zone of genius. All right. So you want to make sure that everyone is doing the right things. And the goal here is if you can get everyone in your team to roughly 30-35% of their zone of genius, that's okay to start. And then like the other 70-ish% is in the other things. But over time, you want to be tracking these things. Every 15 minutes, have them write down exactly what they're doing and then mark. Is it in quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4? All right. And you just mark. And then over time, you track that, right? Just like you would tracking food in a diary, right? You're tracking activity and then you're making adjustments to improve the activity. That's really all this is. It's not very complicated. Every 15 minutes, they write down what quadrant they were working in. And then after a week, you tally all that up and you say, oh, you're spending 20% of your time in this zone, 30% in this zone, 25 in this zone, 25 in this zone. So then you say, okay, well, we're going to go back. Zone of incompetence. Let's say you're saying 20% of your time there. Okay, well, how do we get that down to 5 to 10%? Right? Because there's some things that you're just gonna you can't avoid, right? It's hard to get that down to zero, but you want to get it as low as you can. And then zone of competence. How do we get that lower, more ingenious? Zone of excellence. How do we get that lower zone of genius? Add it to the zone of genius. That is the name of the game here. All right. The great thing about this is AI now is so good at freeing up time from low value activities. It is not yet replacing world-class activities. It is just simply not there. I would say it's probably not even replacing zone of competence activities, right? But it is replacing the lower two. All right, not competence, excellence, not competence. So you want to be using AI to replace. That's the easiest way that you can do this. If you want people to be replacing their low value activities with high value activities, just simply get AI to replace the low value stuff, or at least if it's not replacing it, it's at least adding an addition to. Right? It's making it faster. Right? So they don't have to do that stuff. Uh, the second part about this is that. Is clarity. All right. So the right seat isn't just the right role. All right. And this is something that a lot of people miss. It's something that I've seen over and over and over again in the companies that I work with. When you have someone that you bring onto your team, they have, in order for them to do a good job, they have to know what the role is, they have to know how the role is measured, and they have to know what success looks like. Because if they don't have those three things, how can you expect them to do a good job? It's kind of like asking someone to build you a new, I don't know, a new bar on your outside patio deck, right? Imagine you hired contractor and you said, "Hey, build me a new bar on my patio deck," and they're probably going to come back. Okay, well, do you want brick? Do you want stone? Do you want yada yada yada? They're going to ask you like 100 different questions. I need pictures. I need this. I need that. They need context. All right. Just like AI needs context in order to give you a good result, anybody that is working for you needs context, and the context is they have to know what that role is, what they're supposed to be doing on a day-to-day basis. They have to know how it's measured and what success looks like. All right, and those are all things that you need to give them, because you're looking up at on this overarching higher level view. You can see all the chess pieces moving, so you need to understand from a high level, what does each of those people that are moving the board pieces, what do they need to be doing in order to move the whole board forward? All right, that's your job. Their job is to know, is to get that information and then say, cool, I got you, boss, and then come up with a plan for getting you from point A to point B. All right, that is what it means to have an employee that's in the right seat and knows what they need to know to do well. All right, because like if you're giving them unclear KPIs or no KPIs, they're guessing, right? How are they supposed to do a good job if they don't know what they're being measured on? It's impossible, right? And then I've been in literally situations where uh, someone had an employee and they're like, Jeremy, I can't figure out why they don't get it. And I just say like, okay, well, I just looked at the thing. They don't even have any KPIs. I asked them for a job description. They don't even have a job description. This is a true story. And this was going across, this was across multiple employees, like dozens of employees, by the way. It was a lot of employees. And nobody had KPIs. Nobody had job descriptions. Nobody was clear on what success looked like. Like I literally asked them, "Hey, how do you know that you're doing a good job in your role?" And they're like, I just kind of think, like I kind of guess, and I just do the best that I can." Like that was the response, and I'm like, "Oh my god, this is so bad," right? So, if you don't have those things, make sure you have them, all right? Because employees thrive on clarity. When you have to understand that when you're hiring an A player, A players want to win. All right. So if you tell them how to win and you say you will be winning when X, 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 and you fill in those blanks for them, they will do a better job, period, every single time, because they have clarity. They want to know exactly what to work on, why they're working on it. They want to know how what they're working on affects the whole unit, right? The whole system, the whole company, which is why it's important for you to understand everything that I teach, and how companies are not a bunch of isolated variables. A business is one big holistic living, breathing organism or ecosystem that has a bunch of moving parts, and you have to understand how those moving parts affect the whole. That's what you have to understand as the owner, and then you need to communicate that with your team. All right, so super, super, super important. So now let's get into priorities. All right, so now we have the right people. they're working on the right, or they're in the right seats, right? Now we need to shift into priorities, working on the right things. And this is where the quality of the output comes in. All right. So again, this comes down to you understanding how profit is actually created. Like I just talked about, you have to understand that first, and then you need to communicate that with the team. And again, they have to understand how what their contribution is doing to the whole. All right. Super, super, super important. And I know I just said that. I'm saying it twice on purpose to make it sink in. Um, the biggest thing with this is with the right priorities, right? Because when it comes to setting priorities, there's a lot. I mean, I could probably do a 5 hour training just on priorities themselves. The biggest thing to remember is that if you break down priorities, all right, you should be focusing on either constraints, which is removing a constraint to allow more movement through the business, whether that's more throughput or more profit or whatever, better cash flow, whatever it is, right? You're removing something, removing a blockage that's causing an issue in whether, again, whether it's in profit or in stress or in cash flow or whatever it is, right? So removing constraints. So what is holding you back from getting from where you are now to where you want to be? All right, that's one side of things. The other side is needle moving activities, where you're doing an activity that drives growth. And again, whether that's revenue or profit or cash flow or whatever it is, all right. But constraints is more about like removing, and the adding needle moving activities is more about adding. All right. So you're just looking at subtracting or adding. All right. In order to do that, you have to be, and again, you as the business owner have to be able to see your business from a bird's eye view, and you have to say, okay, we have 1,000 different things that we could be working on as a company. What are the 2 to 3 activities that we can be doing in the company that are going to drive the most progress? And if we just did nothing else except for those 2 or 3 things, what are those 2 or 3 things that are going to get us where we need to be by the end of the next quarter or the end of the next year or whatever it is, whatever time frame? I like to do quarterly priorities, and yearly is more of a, I'm not the biggest fan of annual planning going into like super detail. For me, annual planning is more about getting the team together, camaraderie, building the culture, setting targets for the end of the next year, but not the specific game plans on how to get there. Because there's just, in most companies, it also depends on where you're at, right? It's very, very different if you're $100 million company versus if you're a $5 million scrappy bootstrap company, versus a $500,000 company. Very, very, very different planning for each of those stages. All right. But the point is, you have to make sure that you have systems for working on the right priorities, because I don't care how much stuff you're getting done if it's working on the wrong things. All right. I was just talking to a client that I just brought on last week, I think it was. Um, and she was telling me that one of the things that we're working through is she's spending a lot of time on the operational side of things, because she had an operations person that left, and she's like, oh my god, I didn't realize how much they were taking off my plate until they were gone, and now they're gone, because she was trying to save some money. Now they're gone. This before that I came on, by the way. Now she saved the money, but now she's doing so much stuff that she's like, I basically just took her job, and now I have no time to actually do anything that's revenue producing, right? So we're going to be now working through, okay, well, what can we automate with AI? Do we have to hire someone new, which is probably the path we're going to go down, but it's going to be someone much cheaper. We're going to build processes. So instead of them having to have tons of experience and everything, they're kind of just doing the same thing on a daily basis, just build the systems, and then they just follow the checklist. That's kind of the approach we're taking with that role for her. Uh, and so you have to get in a situation where you know all the things that you could be doing, but you also have the discernment to look at those things and say, okay, we're not going to do this, 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 not going to do this. And you build that power of saying no, right? Build that power of saying, no, we're not going to do this because we're going to spend our time doing this thing, which is going to get us 10 times better results when we're done. All right. That is how you set priorities. All right. When you set priorities, uh, And by the way, when you're setting priorities, I like to use the ICE thing. So it's like the estimated impact, the confidence in you achieving that impact, and the ease or like the resources that are going to be required, right? And I have a literal calculator that I use for this, and we literally just put, like, when I'm working with clients, we put in every single task that they want to do, and then we rate it. And it's like, okay, financial impact. This one is 10,000 a month if it works. Confidence. Well, are we one to 10? 10 is 100% going to work, right? One is 10% going to work, right? Zero is 0% going to work. And then you multiply that by the resources required, right? So because some things you can get like bing, bang, boom, quick wins, and maybe they're only worth a couple grand a month, but they're going to add a couple grand a month in profit, which maybe for you is a 10 or 20 or 30% increase in profit for something that is going to be super quick and easy, and it's not going to require a lot of resources. That actually may get a higher score than something that has a 50% chance of adding $100,000 a month, and it requires tons of resources. So it really just depends. It's not a hard and fast rule when we use this calculator. It's kind of just, hey, here's the score. Does that make sense given all your other contexts? All right. So it's an exercise I walk through with my clients, right? And I could probably do another video on this at some point. So you get those priorities, and then it comes down to quarterly planning. All right, so you put them, and I like to follow the EOS system for this. If you're familiar with that, like rocks, setting quarterly goals. That's a big thing. I've been doing it for years. It's a fantastic system, and you set it. Everyone is very clear. Those goals cascade down. So you set them at the company level. That goes to the department. That goes to the individual employees, and everything. It makes everyone aligned. It gets everyone rowing in the same direction, and it helps buy-in, which is so important when it comes to employees. If they don't know why they're doing what they're doing, they're not going to give shit about what they're doing. Right? And if they have a clear purpose, they understand why what they're doing is contributing to the company, they're going to be so much more invested in what they're doing, and they're going to do a better job. Just, subconsciously, they're going to do a better job. Think about something that you didn't want to do. Let's say it was, I don't know, taking out the trash, right? You don't want to take out the trash, and therefore you're kind of dragging it along. Like you maybe hit a thing, you spill something, whatever, like you don't care, and you just fling it in the garbage. That's what most of your employees are doing in their day-to-day business if they don't understand why what they're doing contributes to the whole. So it's super important to do that. So you set it, you set you get the priorities, you set them, you get them each individual employee and department is very, very clear on what they have to do, and then you track those things on a weekly basis. So let's just say that each person has 3 rocks that are all, again, they're all part of the same rock. They all ladder up to the company goals. They each have their marching orders, and then on a weekly basis, you have meetings that are going over the progress on those things. And if the progress is going well, great, nothing to talk about. If they are running into a problem, that's when it's time to voice the concern on a call. Hey, let's unstick this. Boom, we got it done. All right, now you're good to go, right? And that is how you keep that flow going, and you actually hit you actually hit your goals. And like when you actually plan to do things, you actually do them. And one of the little caveats here is that you, as the owner, especially if you're a visionary owner, are not allowed to change them after they're done, right? It's locked in unless there's something that is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and you can say, I am 100% positive that the result we're going to get from this is going to beat our existing rocks that we already agreed to, then it doesn't happen, right? If you can say that and you get whole team buy-in, great. Do it once in a while. And I want to repeat that, once in a while. Okay. It's not going to change every time you go to a mastermind and you come back with 57 different ideas. Trust me, I get it. I'm one of those people. I've driven my team insane with that exact thing, where I would go to an event or a mastermind, and I would come back with a whole list of things that we have to do. And then it would throw everyone off their game plan, and pretty much destroy the process, right? Destroy the company and get everyone all pissed off, and it makes everyone all stressed, and then people leave, and then that's expensive, and then you have to replace them. Then you have to spend time retraining them, and then you lose a year's worth of opportunity cost because you got excited about something in a mastermind. That's not the right way to run a business, and it's a very common way to run a business. All right. And I'm telling you this as someone who's been there myself and has done that to my team and then learned why it was so harmful. All right. And most people that I work with are doing at least some form of that. Maybe not like super hardcore. Some of them are, but some are. There's some extent of that going on. So just be honest with yourself and see where you are in that continuum. So anyway, so that's the right priorities, and then finally we have efficiency. All right, so that is the quantity of work being done, and I'm not going to go into this too much. Like there's so much about being more productive, right? AI is going to help. Context switching is a really big one. That is because your brain, once it shifts context, it takes a lot of brain power and it takes a lot of time for your brain to kind of like refocus and get back in a groove. All right. Um, I personally like to do noise canceling headphones for most of my anytime I'm getting into any sort of deep focus work. Noise canceling headphones. Meetings are a big thing if they're taking up a chunk of your time, like a big chunk of your time. Make sure that every meeting you're on is you actually need the meeting, like it's actually a required meeting, and you have an agenda for each individual meeting. Only the people that need to be on that meeting are on that meeting. Uh, and there's a bunch of other things that go into meetings. Again, I'll do a full video on meetings, right? Structured days is another big one, right? And this comes back to context switching. So what I like to do, and I got this from Dan Sullivan. This is way back in the day. I got this probably 15 plus years ago. Is you kind of break your days up into three different days. You have buffer days, focus days, and free days. So buffer days are those days where it's kind of like admin work. You're clearing out your inbox, you're doing planning, things like that. You're kind of like setting yourself up for your focus days, which is where you just sit down and work. And you go hardcore and you put the headphones on and you just dive in and you get so much work done. At the end of that day, you should be exhausted mentally. If you get up from your day or from your desk at the end of a focus day and you are not completely mentally spent, you did not work hard enough. All right. Those are those days that you just barrel through them because those are your money days. All right. When you use a buffer day to plan the focus day and get it set up so that you just sit down and go, and then you have that focus day and you sit down and go, you are going to get so much more work done than if you tried to do everything all at once, right? And then free days are just simply where you have a full 24 hours with no technology whatsoever. I bet you probably 98% of people listening to this video, watching this video, or listening to this podcast, or reading the blog post that comes out of this, or whatever it is, I bet 98% of people do not do free days where you take a full 24 hours with no technology whatsoever. And I'm here to tell you that if you start implementing even one of those days into your week, you will change your life and you will change your family's life because you'll be more present with them. You'll be less stressed, right? It's going to help your body. It's going to help your mind. It's going to help your soul. It's going to help your family. It's going to help your kids, your wife, your husband, your whoever is around you will improve because you will become better. All right. Technology is this amazingly just abundant yet destructive force. And it is a very, very, very powerful tool, especially now with AI. And you need to learn how to harness that to wield it to accelerate your life and not hinder your life by making you addicted to it. All right. Super important. Uh, and yeah, so with efficiency, again, there are a lot of things. One of my biggest things is just simple project management tools. That is just simply every Friday, I go on a walk at the end of the day and I map out that for the next week, I map out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I map out every single thing that I'm doing on each day in order. So when I wake up at my desk on Monday morning, I already have a list of my week and it says Monday, boom, this. 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 In order. So I know, okay, got to do this first. Boom, done. This one, done. This one, done. Oh, didn't do these two, so they get pushed to Tuesday. And so on and so forth. Generally, what I like to do for this is I map out Monday through Thursday and I leave Friday open because as I'm sure you know, things don't generally go as planned, right? Things happen, things come up, things take longer than expected. Whatever it is, that gives you that little buffer room on Fridays, and then it also gives you a reason that if it's Friday and you're done at 11 o'clock, take the day off. Look at everything you did in the week, right? And I use Asana for my project management tool, and I mark them off, but I don't have them disappear. I like when it's the end of the week, I like to see all the stuff that I got done in that week. And there's a lot of Fridays that I look and I'm like, man, I crushed this week. I'm feeling a little bit drained, and it's 10 o'clock on a Friday. I'm going to take the day off. And then I go and I do a date day with my wife, or I take her to the beach and go on a walk on the beach, or I sit out by her with the pool while the kids are at school. It is such a it's such a just I don't even know the words for it. It is a massive improvement that you will make in your life that no probably won't do anything for your business, but it will improve your life. All right. Most people are running their businesses in a way that controls their life instead of improving their life. I'm a huge fan of working and building businesses as an accessory to my existing life. All right, not for my life, right? Like not it's not taking over my life. It's improving my life. It's adding to my life. All right. And if you're following all this stuff, that's how you can build yours as well. All right. So when you get all this done, right? When you actually follow this system and you have the right people in the right seats, working on the right things as efficiently as possible, right? I already talked about how we do the double double, right? It's 4 times the amount of output. That may even be more now with AI. I mean, I know I'm probably doing at least 5 times myself, even without some of the stuff that I talked about, just simply with AI. So, like with AI, I mean, you're talking about probably if you get this in your business and you implement AI properly in your business, and you focus people on the right priorities, and you focus them on like all the productivity hacks, I mean, honestly, you can probably 10 times the output of your average person on your team, right? And I'm not making that as like a claim, anything like that, but I would not think that it's unrealistic to be able to do that. And here's the thing, and let's bring this back to numbers, right? What is the end result of all this? Okay. When you're able to produce more with the same overhead, that means you get so overhead per customer is one of the metrics. It's one of the main metrics that we follow because that tracks your operational efficiency. It tracks how efficiently your operations are in producing more units of output, for the resources you currently have, essentially. So what that means is that you can, if you're able to add more revenue, but your operational efficiency stay or your operations stays the same, your overhead stays the same, that lowers your overhead per customer. And if you think of things, something like the allowable allowable customer acquisition cost, ACAC, uh, that is just simply the contribution margin that you get in a given time frame minus your overhead per customer. That's what that formula is. So if your overhead per customer is going lower because you're becoming more efficient and you're producing more revenue with the same overhead, which makes it more efficient, that means that all that excess goes straight to your bottom line. Or if you're reinvesting it in the company, which I would recommend, I mean, it depends on your goals for the company, of course. But if you're trying to scale, you can, like I said in the beginning of the video, you lower your overhead per customer by becoming more efficient. That adds more, it adds more profit that you can then put into increasing your allowable customer acquisition cost. And when you increase your allowable customer acquisition cost, you generate what? More customers, more volume, which then again drops your overhead per customer, right? And of course, there's a limit here. At some point, you're going to need to add more overhead. In most businesses, like in a physical products business, you're probably not going to go from 1 million to 10 million without adding any overhead. But what you're trying to do is that ratio, a lot of people will add, like if this is revenue and this is overhead, they're adding it in lockstep. What you want is the most revenue to be added with the least overhead to be added. So instead of going like this, right, you're going like this. And that's what's going to allow you to keep your margins as you scale. It's one of the things, at least. It's not just that, but it's one of the things that allows you to keep your margins as you scale. Now that's the financial side of things. On the, we'll just call it the soft skills, right? The stress reduction, the lifestyle, the peace of mind side of things. When you improve your efficiency, your overhead, or sorry, your operational efficiency, there's less fires in the business because you have better systems. You have people that are more clear on what they need to do. Um, that means there's less stress for you. People aren't coming to you as often, right? They're figuring things out themselves. They're doing a better job because they're more clear on what they need to do, right? Pretty simple. There's more consistency across the board, which again comes back to less stress for you. Your employees stay longer, right? So employee retention um, increases quite significantly. What does that do? It adds more profit. Well, how does it add more profit? Well, it adds more profit because if you're keeping the same people for a longer period of time, there's one thing that a lot of people don't realize when it comes to employees is, number one, there's a big cost that goes into to hiring employees. I was just working a couple months ago with a client that was using a firm, like a recruiting firm, and she was paying, I think it was like 50 grand. These are C-suite people, and she was paying like 50 grand per person that she hired, right? So if you're going through two C-levels a year, that's an extra 100 grand a year just in that cost, right? Not to mention that when those people come on, most employees are not fully up to speed for a minimum of 6 months, generally closer to a year before they are truly like running at full capacity. All right. And you can't, you have to factor that in. So if you say it takes a year, and we'll just say, we'll just do simple math and say that each month adds 10%, right? So let's just say it's 10 months, just for simple math. Well, if they're making 150 a year, uh, that's what is that, like 12 and a half a month, right? Something like that. So if they're only operating in month one, they're operating at 10% efficiency. That means if you're giving them 12 and a half a month and 10%, that means whatever 12 and a half minus 1250 is, like 12,500 minus 1250, whatever that is. I'm not even going to try to do 11,250, I think it is. That's what you're losing that month in efficiency. And then you subtract another 1150. Now you're in month two, now you're losing 10 month. In month three, now it's 8750. In month four, now it's 7500, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So you have to factor that in when it comes to employees and keeping employees longer. They're going to be happier. They're going to stay longer. It's also more stress for you when you have to hire new employees. I know, like, I hate hiring. I hate that whole process of hiring employees. Even that is why we have really good systems, because I don't like to do it and I want to do it right the first time, right? I would rather spend more time up front and get someone that's going to stay with me for years and treat them right and pay them right and all the things, give them the systems, give them what they need to succeed, than have to constantly be going out trying to find people, right? So the point of all this is this system of trying to double, right? Double your output and double double your quality and double your quantity of output. It doesn't, it helps everything downstream, right? When you have the right people in the right seats, doing the right things efficiently, it helps all the five levers that I talk about. It's going to improve your contribution margin because that's actually going to be a priority. It's going to improve your acquisition economics because you're getting more done. You're testing more. You have people focused on the right things. It's going to help your lifetime value because, again, that's going to become a priority when you understand how everything works. Operational efficiency is obviously covered with this. And then it's also going to help your capital return velocity because, again, they're going to understand the priority that has, and they're going to be actually working on it instead of working on a bazillion little stupid things that aren't actually going to move the needle. All right. So if this video helped, I hope that it did. If it did, make sure you give a like, subscribe, comment, whatever it is for you. If you want to help, if you want to work with me to actually implement this in your business, if you're stressed from your employees, if you don't know how to hire right, if you just think that you're bloated and you're trying to cut back without cannibalizing yourself, which, by the way, I've seen many clients do, reach out to me. Happy to work with you. We can talk about what that looks like. Otherwise, take this and run with it. I hope this helps you. This is really, really, really important. Okay. If you're a If you're like a homegrown marketer and you love acquisition, you love marketing, and you just don't understand operations, you don't like operations, first of all, congratulations for making it to the end of this video because most people wouldn't. So that says a lot about you by itself. Second of all, take this seriously. I'm telling you, as someone who used to be a marketer and like just obsessed with only marketing and didn't understand operations and finances and all the things, as someone who has gone from that and now understands the impact that proper operations and operational efficiency has in your business, both on a peace of mind level and on a financial level, I'm telling you, it will change your life when you implement this in your business. There's less fires. You will hit less ceilings. I mean, the employees are generally what causes ceilings. Uh, it just makes your life so much better. So take this and run with it. Whether it's you doing it yourself, whether it's you, reaching out to me and seeing if I can help you, whatever that looks like, take this and run with it. I hope it helps you. If it did, give me some love in the comments. And otherwise, I hope you have a fantastic day.